ladies and gentlemen, this is the best episode of Hunter x Hunter I have ever seen. It's my favorite episode of the series, hands down, no comparison. This week's episode was the climactic battle between Gon Freaks and Pitou, and it didn't disappoint on any fronts. This week's episode was also a roller coaster of emotions, which just made it all the more complex and interesting. There were moments of incredibly awesome and brutal action. There were moments when you started to feel sad for Gon. There were moments when you got excited. Huge revelations such as the fact that Gon is now as powerful as the Chimera Ant King, which effectively makes him stronger than the chairman who died just a couple episodes ago. And let's face it, that guy was a friggin' badass, maybe the most powerful hunter in the series. So what does that say for Gon at this point? The most important thing about this episode is that Gon is sort of sacrificing his life energy to attain this brand new form, which makes him look like an adult. It's very similar to what Beastke did, where she would make herself look younger, and her actual true form is very large and big. Gon's form is on an entirely new level, and the actual transformation sequence for it was done very, very well. I like how they had all this, like, line-drawn black energy coming out of his body, and then his eyes went completely white. And even he himself was completely shocked by this. And I even like that they sort of held back on showing what he looked like fully, which effectively is just a taller, more buff-looking Gon, and he has this, like, massive hair which reaches up into the sky that would make even Marge Simpson blush. But it's the actual battle that starts that's just really impressive, because when they finally walk outside of this massive castle, Pitou really wastes no time in attacking Gon, and it's really only a matter of seconds before Gon just starts beating the crap out of Pitou with these punches that send her flying so far, it's ridiculous. When he does his rock, paper, scissors technique and hits her with it like point blank in the face and she goes flying across the forest and hits a tree, it's devastating beyond belief. She can't even get up and her face is completely smashed and almost unrecognizable. And this is kind of disturbing because of how much they've actually built up Pitou, and in a matter of one freaking massive punch, she is incapacitated. And then when Killua is finally making his way to Gon, there's a scene where he is just continuously using that technique and punching her face into the ground, and there's pretty much nothing there. Her head is gone, the skull is destroyed, and yet she's still managing to control herself through the use of her puppet and trying to attack. And this is when things start to get really, really strange, because there's a scene where she's trying to attack him with both of her hands at once, and Killua's getting ready to jump in the way. And I was freaking out when I was watching this for the first time, because I'm like, is Killua about to take this attack and get completely killed? That would be a complete bummer. But it went in an even crazier direction. Gon actually had his arm ripped off again in the series, and this isn't bothering him at all. He feels no pain. He even tells Killua not to worry in this very heart-wrenching scene. And then it ends with him punching Pitou again, and then grabbing his arm in midair, literally impaling Pitou. It's so badass and incredibly fun and awesome and unique, and it really just, like, sets a standard for the rest of the show, and nothing can be compared to it, especially because once he, like, finishes her off, there's this massive big explosion that covers the entire forest. I'd love to see Hisoka try to fight Gon now, that little punk. So, what's the rundown on this week's episode of Hunter x Hunter? Well, it kicked ass. It kicked all sorts of ass. I loved the animation from this week's episode. It did so many different things. It was just standard animation. There were moments when he went through the transformation and everything had a hand-drawn look to it. There was a scene at the end when Gon lost his arm and there was a confrontation between him and Killua. And I loved how it was all black and white and you could only see the blood. It just really added a lot to it. The voice acting this week was great, especially from Gon, who is going into a different bit of characterization than we've ever seen him before. He's truly gone to a dark place, and you can see it with his voice acting this week, and all of the emotions that he showed just went perfectly with that. Gon's actual transformation is both funny and badass at the same time. Funny because that hair is just so crazy, how it just constantly reaches up into the sky, and it almost seems like it gets bigger as the episode goes on. Like, when Killua actually finds him, it is going past the trees. It is so crazy. It's just like Dragon Ball levels. The more hair you have, the more powerful you are. All of the punches and attacks this week were incredibly impactful, and watching Pitou get destroyed was both badass and really disturbing at the same time. This week's episode will leave you with a lot of mixed emotions and feelings, and you're not really sure what they're going to do with Gon at this point. The fact that he was sacrificing all of his life energy to make this happen may have some massive repercussions on him himself. Like, he might not even survive, he might lose all of his powers. He lost an arm, so he's already in big trouble, and the fact that he was still able to use the rock, paper, scissors ability when his arm was missing was just crazy. And that's, you know, just the bulk of the episode. There's still a lot of other little moments that make this one worth watching. The scene at the beginning when Poof is gloating about how he made everything work in his favor, and then Killua just crushes him instantly with his lightning, that was pretty cool. But this is not even the end of this arc. This seems like it was probably one of the craziest parts of the entire series, and yet we still have the Chimera Ant King to deal with. He's back at the castle, and if you look at the preview, it looks like things are going to be even crazier next week. So I'm going to give this week's episode a 10 out of 10. It was a kick-ass episode. You should definitely check it out if you're following the series. It is an absolute must, if only to see the brutal action scenes and to get to see Gon go through this very sad but exciting transformation. It was just an incredible episode on pretty much every single front. Check it out, guys. Awesome episode. If you guys had a chance to see this week's episode of Hunter x Hunter, I would love to hear your thoughts about it. You can tell me with your comments below. What did you think of the battle between Pitou and Gon? Did you have any favorite moments? Did you want to see a little bit more from the battle? And what are your predictions for the end of the Chimera Ant arc? Remember, guys, before you leave, make sure and hit that like button so you can give this video a thumbs up. It's really, really easy to do, and it helps us out a lot. Remember to subscribe to the channel so you can see all of our latest anime and manga reviews. You can also check us out on Facebook and on Twitter. I'll put links to those in the description box below. Also, guys, I did a reaction to this week's episode of Hunter x Hunter, the entire episode. So if you guys want to check that out and watch the episode along with me, I'll put a link to that at the very end of the video. So, I'll see you next time, guys. Super Kami Guru 9000. Out.